Hello everyone, welcome to my class Pinnacle of English, and in today's video we are going to learn a very famous story from class 10th CBSE, Footprints Without Feet, and the title of the story is same which is printed on the front cover of the book Footprints Without Feet. This story is written by H.G. Wells. Now let's understand the author's detail. Robert George Wells was born on 21st September 1866 and died in 13th August 1946. Was an English writer. He was prolific in many genres, writing dozens of novels, short stories, and works of social commentary, satire, biography, and autobiography, and even 2 books on recreational war games. This is now best remembered for his science fiction novels and is often called the father of science fiction, along with Jules Verne and Hugo Jansbach. So here is a complete detail of the author. Now let's understand a short introduction of the lesson, what exactly the story is about. The story is about a scientist named Griffin. He discovers the rare chemicals which can make a man visible, but at the same time the man can be touched and felt physically. Let's read and find out how he uses or misuses his powers of his own. Generally what happens, people forget when the power comes to in their hands and they misuses it. The best example which I would like to give is APJ Abdul Kalam. He discovered nuclear, but after discovering nuclear, USA used that nuclear in a secret way and meant an atom bomb, nuclear bomb we can say, and threw that nuclear bomb on Japan's 2 famous cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, to take the revenge, because Japan also threw a bomb on Pearl Harbor. That's why. Here you can see power is there, but the power should not be misused in any way. But that power should be used in a positive way. Let's understand the summary of this story. The story is about a scientist named Griffin. He had been discovering ways which could make a man visible and finally swallowed certain rare drugs that made him visible. He was working hard because he was working day in and day out in his laboratory, and he became successful to find this rare drug, and then after he drank that drug and became invisible. He was first noticed by 2 boys in staircase of a house where they could just see his footsteps and started following it. They followed this Griffin who was invisible, only his footsteps were visible only. He followed his footsteps until they are fainter and cannot be seen. First, as he is feeling cold, he enters a mall for some warmth. After the stores shut down, he decides to wear some warm clothes and eat something. So it was winter season, winter time, and we can say in foreign country that winter is always cold, the snow falls. And he became very much cold, so he wanted to have a shelter to keep his body warmed. So he went and he entered the mall, and it was evening time when the shutter was down, the mall was closed. He found some clothes to wear. He became hungry even. He found cold meat and some coffee to drink. And he filled his stomach with this food. And then after he found quilt and took rest over there till next day morning. So here he first unboxes a few clothes and wears them. Then from the kitchen of a restaurant he eats cold meat and some coffee. Later he goes to a grocery store and eats sweets and drink wine. He then falls asleep on a pile of quilts because it's a place where many things are sold. So quilts were also there. He took rest. He slept over there where there was a pile of quilts. He then wakes up in the morning when some of the store assistants had seen him and started chasing. When he woke up in the next morning, the shutter was kept up and he found that somebody is there. So he started running away from the place. The assistants were behind him. He thought himself that if he could not remove his clothes, definitely they could catch him. So while running, he put off his clothes, even shoes and everything, and ran away from the place. He quickly threw away all the clothes he was wearing and became invisible again. Then he started roaming around again without any clothes in the cold winters of London. You can see how you suffer when you misuse your power. He then decides to steal clothes from a theatre company as he knew he would get something there to cover his face as well. So he then steals bandages of his face for his face, dark glasses, false nose, a hat for covering himself. He even found a false nose so that nobody could identify him. So he took all these things from the theatre. He stole everything from there. He then hits the shopkeeper and steals all his money. Soon he realizes that London is too crowded to live like this and decides that he would go to remote village. He books his 2 rooms at an inn at the Iping village. So he did not have any money, so he wanted to have some money. So he went to the shop where there was a shopkeeper. He was just back to his drawer where he was keeping his money. He hit on his head and took all the money from the drawer and ran away. And then he realizes that London is too much crowded place, so it's really difficult to live like this, running from one place to another place, right, without clothes. And it is cold winter season, so he was feeling cold. So he was thinking that it is too difficult to live in this crowded place. So he decided to live in a remote village, remote place. And there he books 2 rooms at an inn. So inn is a house where the guests are welcomed to visit around places for a few days, not more than that. And that village name was Iping village, where he had booked his 2 rooms. He reaches there, and it is strange for the people of Iping village that a stranger with such a varied appearance has come to stay at an inn during the winter season. So whoever was observing him, he was looking strange because he used a false nose, even goggles, hat and everything, right? And he decided to have or to live in that inn, Iping village, in a house where people stay for a few days and then after move away to different places. Once his money is over, he steals from the people and also hits the landlord and his wife when they try to check his room in his absence. Then the village constable is asked for help, but there that Mrs. Hall, the wife of the landlord, asked him questions regarding who is and what he did to her furniture. Now, the point is that once his money is over, Mrs. Hall was there and she was the owner of that inn, right? And she became happy when this Griffin entered to her inn. So both Mr. and Mrs. Hall became very much happy because a guest came in, right? And they were eagerly waiting for the guest because they also wanted some money to live their life. So they became happy. The room was allotted. Some amount was given to him, but it was too less. When the room's rent amount was over till through that day, Mrs. Hall again asked for the money. Even Griffin also asked her that you have to wait for some days because he was waiting for a check, and that was a lie to say her. Even there was a doubt what exactly he was doing, because he told very clearly to Mrs. Hall that he should not be disturbed anymore anytime when he is not asked. Mrs. Hall, the wife of the landlord, asked him questions regarding who is and what he did to her furniture, because Mrs. Hall was thinking in that there is damage to the furniture. A chair was there which Mrs. Hall's grandmother was using, and she was sitting over there, and she loved that chair too much. So Mrs. Hall and even his neighbor was observing him, what exactly he was doing in his room, right? So this makes him really furious, and he decided to show her who he really is. The people then see a headless man and Mr. Jaffers, the constable, who also finds out that he would have to arrest a man who does not have a head. They are unable to catch Griffin as he removes all his clothes and becomes invisible. He even knocks out Jaffers as he tries to catch him. So really, it was really furious because he did not have a head and the rest of the body. Even when he was wearing clothes, that part could be visible. So everybody was furious in the inn because Griffin was looking like that. Even the people see a headless man, and Mr. Jaffers is the constable here, and he also finds out that he would have to arrest a man who does not have a head. They are unable to catch Griffin as he removes his clothes, because when he was with his clothes, it was easy to find Griffin to catch. Mr. Jaffers tried his best to catch, but he was thinking that if I could not remove my clothes, definitely they would catch him. That's why he removed his clothes, and it was really difficult to catch Griffin in the hall. He even knocks out Jaffers as he tries to catch him. Now let's understand the NCERT question answers, which are really important for board examinations. How did the invisible man first become visible? The answer of this question is Griffin was completely invisible until he happened to step in some mud, which caused him to leave footprints as he walked. These footprints were seen by two boys who followed him as long as the prints were visible. On getting rid of them, he went to a big London store to put some warm clothes. After the store was shut, he got dressed by putting on shoes, an overcoat, and a wide-brimmed hat. This made him visible to the people who came to work at the store the next day. Next question is, why was he wandering the streets? That's a question. Wandering means moving here and there uselessly. Griffin was a lawless person. He was not following any law. His landlord disliked him and tried to get rid of him. His landlord was always asking him to pay the rent. And that's why his landlord did not like him and tried to get rid of him. He wanted to throw him away from the house. But in revenge, he set fire to the house. His house was burnt. He had to remove his clothes to get away without being seen. And this was why he had become a homeless wanderer without clothes and money. And we understand we do not have shelter, money and clothes. How do we feel? We understand those people who do not have shelter and money. You can understand the people, those who are on the streets where they do not have shelter to sleep at night. They have the footpaths, and they feel that the sky is a bed sheet, or we can say the blanket for them. Why does Mrs. Hall find the scientist eccentric? The arrival of the stranger at an inn in winter was in itself a strange occurrence. In addition, the stranger had an uncommon appearance. In spite of Mrs. Hall's attempts to be friendly, he would respond in a cold manner. He told her that he had no desire to talk and that all he wanted was solitude. He did not wish to be disturbed in his work. For all these reasons, she regarded him as an eccentric scientist. So, the stranger's arrival in the winter season at this inn in Iping village was itself a strange occurrence, because they were eagerly waiting for the customer. In addition, the stranger had an uncommon appearance. The appearance was really very very uncommon. It's not looking like us because he used false nose. In spite of Mrs. Hall's attempts to be friendly, he would respond in a cold manner. He told her that he had no desire to talk with anybody and he should not be disturbed anymore, and that all he wanted to become solitude, alone in his room. He did not wish to be disturbed in his work, and for all these reasons, she regarded him as an eccentric scientist. Next question. What curious episode occurs in the study? Very important question. A clergyman and his wife were awakened by noises in the study very early in the morning. Creeping downstairs, they heard the chink of money being taken from the clergyman's desk. He and his wife looked under the desk and behind the curtains and even up the chimney. There wasn't a sign of anybody. Yet the desk had been opened and the housekeeping money was missing. So that stealing was done by nobody but Griffin was there, because he was in a great demand of money. He wanted money to run his life, and that's why he stole money to give that amount to Mrs. Hall to pay the rent of that inn. What other extraordinary things happen at an inn? The landlord and his wife surprised to see the scientist's door open. Usually it is shut and locked, and he becomes furious if anyone enters his room. The opportunity seems too good to be missed. They peep round the door, see nobody, and decide to investigate. So here the landlord and his wife surprised to see that scientist's door open. So they kept the door open, right, for the customer, and they became happy because in a remote place, rare case the customer comes in. Usually it is shut and it locked, and he becomes furious if anyone enters his room, right? So the opportunity seems to be good to be missed. So they were having the opportunity to get a customer to earn money. and they were peeping, looking around the door and see nobody, and even they decided to investigate what exactly Griffin was doing in his room. The bedclothes were cold, showing that the scientist must have been up for some time. All of a sudden, Mrs. Hall heard a sniff close to her ear. A moment later, the hat on the bedpost leaped up and dashed itself into her face. Then the bedroom chair became alive, springing into the air, and it charged straight at her legs foremost. So Mrs. Hall decided to investigate what exactly he was doing in his room. When he peeped in his room, he saw that there was a chair, that the chair was moving here and moving in the air. And then she found that there was nobody in the house. The chair was moving without any reason. And she and her husband turned away in terror. The extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. As she and her husband, Mrs. Hall and Mr. Hall, turned away in terror, they became afraid after seeing all these things. The extraordinary chair pushed them both out of the room and then appeared to slam and lock the door after them. Mrs. Hall almost fell down the chairs in hysteria with fear, and she was convinced that the room was haunted by spirits and the stranger had somehow caused these to enter into the furniture. Now Mrs. Hall fell down the stairs and she became afraid, and then after she was convinced that there was something is there, somebody is there as a ghost, as a spirit, and the room was really a haunted place, a fearful place, and somehow caused this to enter into the furniture. Question number 6. Griffin was rather a lawless person. Comment. Very important question. It is rightly said that Griffin was a lawless person. He was not a law-abiding citizen. He was not respecting any law of the country, of the city. And that's why he was called a lawless person. A person who follows law and order of the country cannot think of damaging others' property. But Griffin set fire to the house and became a homeless wanderer. He also robbed a shopkeeper of all the money and could find. He stole the housekeeping money from the clergyman's desk. Griffin also attacked Mrs. Hall when she entered his room. All these activities and instances prove that he was really a lawless person. So, if a person is abiding the law of the country or of the city, he must be a positive person. He never ever uses the power which he was having. But here he set fire to the landlord's house. Even he became wanderer. He robbed the shopkeeper with all the money which he could find from the drawer. Even he stole the housekeeping money from the clergyman's desk. Griffin also attacked Mrs. Hall, right, when she entered his room, because she was investigating what exactly he was doing in his room. Question number 7. How could you assess Griffin as a scientist? After repeated experiments, Griffin had discovered how to make the human body transparent. This was a big achievement. However, he misused his discovery for personal gains, for hurting others. Thus, though he can be termed as a brilliant scientist, he was not a noble one. So, here we are ending our story, Footprints Without Feet, with explanation, author's detail, and even NCERT question answers, which are really important for board examinations. I hope you have liked this video. If you like my video, please subscribe it, Click on like button, share with your friends, and even don't forget to click on notification for my further videos. Have a good day.